Every Wednesday after work, I'd stop by O'Malley's down the street. Not for the beer, not for the game, just 40 minutes off my feet. There was an old man by the jukebox, always sitting chair number 9. Same brown jacket, same black coffee, same quiet look in his eyes. We talked about the weather mostly, baseball, fishing, county fairs. Never once about the silver band he still wore after all these years. One December he missed a Wednesday, then another came and went. The waitress looked toward his empty chair and quietly said, his wife still comes every Friday. She can't bring herself to stop. That old jacket on chair number 9 still hangs there every Friday night. She drapes it over the back like always, then orders 2 slices of pie. Some people think she's holding on, some whisper she should let him go. But love don't answer to the calendar, it only answers to the soul. One snowy evening she waved me over, said, would you mind sitting here? She pushed his coffee across the table and then smiled through quiet tears. She told me how they met in '68 at a county dance in June. He promised every Friday night, I'll always save this seat for you. Now that jacket on chair number 9 means more than leather, thread, and time. It's every promise someone kept long after goodbye. Keep showing up each week. Sometimes forever wears an old brown coat on an empty seat. Spring rolled in with blooming dogwoods, but one Friday she wasn't there. The waitress folded up that old brown jacket and laid a single white rose on the chair. Nobody spoke, nobody had to. Now chair number 9 sits empty, but somehow it isn't alone. 2 coffee cups still rest there sometimes, from folks who knew their story. Whenever somebody asks about them, we just smile and point that way. 'Cause in a little bar outside Savannah, love still keeps its Friday date. Yes, marriages end with a funeral. The best ones never really do.
The doctor shook his head last April, said take it easy, slow things down. But my granddad just smiled and tipped his cap, looked out across that Oklahoma ground. 82 years in those same fields, watching seasons come and go. He said a man don't quit on the land he loves till it's time for the Lord to call him home. We planted corn beneath the rainy sky, like we'd done since I was 10. His hands were worn like old leather gloves, but they still knew where to begin. Every sunrise found him on that tractor, rolling slow through rows of green, teaching me lessons he never wrote down, in ways only farmers mean. Just one more harvest, one more fall, one more season, hearing that meadowlark call. One more sunset, painting gold on the plains. One more chance to thank God for the rain. He said, son, life grows fast, don't miss it all. Take time to love the people standing small beside you, and every word still echoes through my heart, like one more harvest before the dark. October came with amber fields waving, the biggest crop we'd seen in years. We worked side by side through the cool morning air, laughing louder than our fears. Then one November Sunday morning, he passed away in his favorite chair, with harvest dust still on his boots, and peace resting everywhere. Just one more harvest, one more fall, one more season, hearing that meadowlark call. One more sunset, painting gold on the plains. One more chance to thank God for the rain. He said, son, life grows fast, don't miss it
small beside you, and every word still echoes through my heart, like one more harvest before the dark. Now every spring when the fields awaken and fresh green rises from the earth, I swear I see him right in those horizons, smiling at what his life was worth. Just one more harvest, that's all he asked. Not riches, not glory, just time that lasts. To watch the weeping beneath the sky and hold the ones he loved nearby. Now I carry on where his story ends. Through every season the good Lord sends, and when the sunset settles on those plains, I thank him for one more harvest again.
I was headed home to Tennessee after 6 long months overseas. A window seat, row 12 seated, just counting miles till yesterday. The little girl climbed on the plane, holding a stuffed bear in the rain. She stopped beside the empty chair and asked, "Is somebody sitting there?" Her mama smiled and shook her head. "Honey, not anymore," she said. She buckled in and held her close, while silence filled that narrow road. A flight attendant leaned my way, whispered words I'll never shake. Her daddy was supposed to fly today, he never made it home. That empty seat on flight 417 said more than words have ever been. No suitcase there, no cowboy hat, just everything she wished she had. Some heroes miss their flights to heaven before they make it home again. And sometimes love is measured most by the empty seats we leave behind. Halfway through the flight she looked at me, asked if I'd color with her please.
She drew a house beneath blue skies, with one man standing way up high. She pointed at the clouds outside, said, "Daddy says that's where he'll hide. Whenever I get scared at night, he'll turn the porch light on." I had to turn and face the window so she wouldn't see me cry. That empty seat on flight 417 carried more than memory. It carried dreams that never landed, promises still floating free. Every mile across those clouds felt heavier somehow, because love doesn't disappear, it just changes where it's found. When we landed in Nashville, she reached up and hugged my neck, then tucked that little drawing inside my jacket vest. She whispered, "If you see my daddy, tell him I was brave. There wasn't a dry eye in Terminal C." Now every time I board a plane, I always notice one empty place. Not every chair is truly vacant. Some are filled with grace. And somewhere above these endless clouds, where the morning meets the blue, I believe a father smiled that day, watching his little girl come through. Yeah, I'll never forget the empty seat on flight 417.
There's a pair of worn-out cowboy boots still sitting by the back screen door, covered in dust from 1,000 mornings, like they're waiting to walk once more. They crossed the fields of western Kansas, through drought and rain and harvest time, and every scuff upon that leather marks a chapter of a life. My older brother wore those boots the first day he took over the farm, when Daddy's shoulders couldn't carry all the weight of keeping us strong. He gave up college, gave up freedom, stayed behind when he could have gone, while the rest of us chased our futures. He kept this family moving on.
fences and hands worn down by duty. Yeah, heroes don't always wear medals. Sometimes they wear dust and dreams and leave behind a trail of footprints for the rest of us to follow clean. Last spring we laid him in the churchyard beneath the cottonwood on the hill. The whole town showed up that Sunday, and somehow the world stood still. Mama cried into my shoulder as the church bell softly rang, and all I could think about was how much one quiet man had changed. Those boots by the door tell a story of sacrifices nobody sees, of early mornings, broken fences, and hands worn down by duty. Yeah, heroes don't always wear medals. Sometimes they wear dust and dreams and leave behind a trail of footprints for the rest of us to follow clean. Last week my nephew slipped them on, though they're still 3 sizes too large. He smiled and said, "One day I'll wear these." And I felt something in my heart. Yeah, those boots by the door keep speaking, though the man who wore them's gone. Through every lesson, every memory, his spirit keeps living on. And when that boy grows into them like his father did before, a new chapter will begin again with those boots by the door. Yeah, some legacies aren't written in stone. They're waiting by the door at home.
First time I saw her was a Friday in May at a roadside market off Highway 61. She was buying wildflowers with dirt on her jeans, laughing like she didn't need anyone. A Tennessee sunset painted gold in her hair while she loaded up an old Ford bed. And for reasons I still can't explain, I couldn't get her out of my head.
She rented a little white house by the river with a porch swing and a blue front door. Every Sunday she'd leave fresh wildflowers on the graves of folks she'd never known before. She said everybody deserves to be remembered, even if nobody calls their name. That's when I knew my life was changing, and I'd never be the same. She left wildflowers everywhere she went, in broken hearts and fences bent, in small town souls that needed light. She turned ordinary into bright, and somehow she found this worn-out man, taught these rough old hands to hold again. Yeah, love grew where nobody thought it could. She left wildflowers where she stood. That October underneath the maple trees, I got down on one knee by the riverbank. The leaves were falling around us slow, and I could barely get the words out straight. She laughed and cried at the same time, said, "Boy, what took you so long?" and slipped her hand into mine like that's where it'd been all along. She left wildflowers everywhere she went, in broken hearts and fences bent, in small town souls that needed light. She turned ordinary into bright, and somehow she found this worn-out man, taught these rough old hands to hold again. Yeah, love grew where nobody thought it could. She left wildflowers where she stood. Now there's a little girl with her mama smile, running barefoot through the yard, picking flowers by the riverside, leaving them in mason jars. And every time I see that scene, I thank the Lord above for the woman who showed me kindness could become the deepest kind of love. Yeah, she left wildflowers everywhere she went, and every dream and every blessing sent, and every sunset on the porch at night, and every reason my world feels right. When we rode in gray together, rocking slow beneath the evening sky, I'll still be falling for that girl with wildflowers in her eyes. Yeah, some people leave footprints in the dirt. She left wildflowers in my life. Radio crackled just past midnight on Route 84 through New Mexico. My headlights painted silver lines across the desert no one seemed to know. I'd spent 10 years hauling freight trailers, sleeping more in truck stops than at home, watching birthdays through a phone screen, always somewhere down the road. That night a song came through the static, one my little daughter used to sing back when she was 5 years old, and thought I could do anything. I pulled over by an old gas station under a buzzing neon light, and for the first time in forever I sat alone and cried. That radio on Route 84 hit me harder than ever before. It made me realize what all these miles had really cost me over time. You can chase a paycheck coast to coast, cross every state from south to north, but some things get left behind when your heart ain't where you are. By sunrise I was heading east toward Oklahoma and home again, past windmills turning in the distance, past towns I'd only passed through then. When I pulled into our gravel driveway, my daughter ran out through the yard. She was nearly 16 by that summer, and suddenly I saw how much I'd missed you. That radio on Route 84 hit me harder than ever before. Made me realize what all these miles had really cost me over time. You can chase a paycheck coast to coast, cross every state from south to north, but some things get left behind when your heart ain't where you are. Now I still drive, but not for weeks on end. Got a local route close to town. Sometimes success looks a whole lot different than the dreams you started out with. Yeah, that radio on Route 84 changed what I was living for, turned a lonely highway into a sign, pointing me back to my life. Now every night when I pull in the drive and see the porch light shining warm, I thank God for one old country song. Some roads take you far away, just to show you where you belong.
Friday night in Cheyenne, Wyoming, dust rising under arena lights. The whole town packed those metal bleachers, waiting on the ride of the night. I was 25 and full of fire, with a borrowed dream and a busted knee, holding on to one last season before life decided who I'd be. The chute gate rattled like thunder, that black bull weighed near 2 grand. Folks called him Devil's Highway, nobody stayed on him long. I wrapped that rope around my glove, heard the crowd fade into the dark. Funny how the loudest moments always start with a quiet heart. It's only 8 seconds forever, 8 seconds hanging between fear and faith, 8 seconds to prove to yourself you ain't backing down today. The world keeps telling you play it safe, but some dreams don't work that way. Sometimes a whole life fits inside 8 seconds forever. The gate flew open like a shotgun blast, and all hell broke loose below. That bull twisted left then right, trying hard to throw my soul. I felt my shoulder nearly give out, heard the buzzer cut through the air, and when my boots hit Wyoming dirt, I knew I'd left a piece of me there. It's only 8 seconds forever, 8 seconds hanging between fear and faith, 8 seconds to prove to yourself you ain't backing down today. The world keeps telling you play it safe, but some dreams don't work that way. Sometimes a whole life fits inside 8 seconds forever. I never won a gold buckle, never made the Hall of Fame, but I still see those lights every time I close my eyes. And honestly, I'd do it all again, 'cause some victories don't need trophies, just a story worth telling someday. It's only 8 seconds forever, but those seconds changed my life, taught me courage ain't about winning, it's showing up and taking the ride. Now my son wears my old cowboy hat and dreams beneath the same big sky, and when he asks me what it means to live, I tell him find something worth risking for, 'cause the best moments don't last forever, but forever can live in a moment.
Out on the Carolina coast, where the Atlantic meets the sand, there stood a lonely lighthouse built by weathered working hands. My daddy kept that beacon burning through every storm that came, while I dreamed of bigger cities and a life beyond the waves. Every night he climbed those stairs with a lantern and a key, while cargo ships crossed dark horizons far beyond the sea. He'd say a light ain't measured by how far away it shines, it's measured by the lives that helps make it home alive. At 18 I left Hatteras with a suitcase and a plan, certain there was something greater waiting for me inland. I spent 20 years in boardrooms wearing polished shoes and ties, building things that look successful through everybody's eyes. Then one winter I got a call from a number I didn't know. The keeper's house was empty now, and Dad was gone. I flew back through a freezing rain to that familiar shore, and found his boots beside the door, like he just stepped out once more. I'm the lighthouse keeper's son, and it took me half a lifetime to learn where I came from. You can chase every distant skyline underneath the sun, but some lights keep guiding you long after they're gone. Through the fog and through the storms, through every road I wandered on, I'm the lighthouse keeper's son, and his light still leads me home. The town was planning to close the tower by the bay. Modern systems made it obsolete, or so the experts claimed. But as I walked those spiral stairs, I saw Dad's name carved deep, beside 100 others who had kept watch over the sea. So I stood before the county board and made a different case. Said this lighthouse isn't concrete, steel and paint. It's every life that found the harbor when the ocean turned black, and somehow the whole room rose up and brought the old tower back. I'm the lighthouse keeper's son, and it took me half a lifetime to learn where I came from. You can chase every distant skyline underneath the sun, but some lights keep guiding you long after they're gone. Through the fog and through the storms, through every road I wandered on, I'm the lighthouse keeper's son, and his light still leads me home. Now every year on Father's Day, I climb those stairs alone, watch the beam sweep across the waves, and think about all I've come to know. The strongest men don't always build the tallest things you'll see. Sometimes they simply leave behind a reason to believe. Yeah, I'm the lighthouse keeper's son, and the older your guiding stars through the fog and through the storms. Their lessons carry on. I'm the lighthouse keeper's son, and his light still leads me home. Yes, his light still leads me home.
There's a little red bicycle hanging in the barn, covered in dust beneath the rafters and stars. The paint's chipped off, the tires are flat, but I can't bring myself to throw it out. I found it this morning while cleaning the loft. Sunlight pouring through the cracks, and just like that, I was 12 years old, with the whole world at my back. Daddy ran beside me down that gravel lane, one hand steady on the seat, said, keep your eyes where you want to go, not on the ground beneath your feet. I still remember letting go of fear as the summer wind filled my face, and hearing him laugh somewhere behind me when I finally found my pace. That bicycle in the barn takes me back to who we are, before the years and all the miles, before the worries and the scars. Some things rust, some things fade, some dreams don't turn out like you planned, but a father's voice can echo forever from a bicycle in a barn. My son came out while I stood there smiling, asked, Dad, what's that doing here? I pulled it down and brushed off the dust and told him stories he'd never hear. My son said we were fixing chains, pumping air into worn out tires, and for a moment 3 generations were standing in that barn together. That bicycle in the barn takes me back to who we are, before the years and all the miles, before the worries and the scars. Some things rust, some things fade, some dreams don't turn out like you planned, but a father's voice can echo forever from a bicycle in a barn. That evening down the county road, my boy wobbled, laughed and swayed, and I heard myself say the very words my daddy said that day. Keep your eyes where you wanna go. Yeah, that bicycle in the barn became more than an old man
from a bicycle in a barn. Yeah, some gifts don't come wrapped in paper. They wait for years in a dusty barn.
In the corner of Gate 12 at Nashville International sat an old upright piano, worn smooth from years of travelers' hands. Businessmen, young dreamers, soldiers heading overseas would stop and play a song or two before disappearing with the breeze. Most folks walked right past it, chasing flights and deadlines fast, never knowing every scratch upon that wood belonged to someone's past. But every Tuesday just past noon, an old man took that seat and played melodies so beautiful the whole terminal grew still. Nobody knew his story much, except he wore a faded cap and carried a photograph folded in his jacket flap. One afternoon I missed my flight and wound up listening near when he started playing Amazing Grace. I noticed tears. After the crowd had drifted off, I finally asked his name. He smiled and said, "I'm Walter, music's why I came." Then he pointed to the photograph he'd carried all those years, a young woman at that same piano, smiling ear to ear. At the piano at Gate 12, time slows down for a little while. Strangers become stories, and sorrow learns to smile. Every note carries somebody, every chord recalls a name, and for a few sweet minutes, we're all travelers just the same. He told me back in '89, his wife sang in local bars before cancer took her voice and left silence where songs are. On her final day, she made him promise through the pain, don't let the music leave this world when I can't sing again. So every Tuesday for 20 years he'd come and keep that vow, playing her favorite songs for people rushing through somehow. And nobody realized the reason behind those melodies until a reporter shared the story nationwide one week. At the piano at Gate 12, time slows down for a little while. Strangers become stories, and sorrow learns to smile. Every note carries somebody, every chord recalls a name, and for a few sweet minutes, we're all travelers just the same. The next Tuesday something happened no one there could have planned. 100 people gathered round, singing softly hand in hand. Flight crews, kids and weary strangers filled the terminal with sound. And
Walter sat there crying as his wife's favorite song echoed around. Now the piano at gate 12 still stands beneath those airport lights, and every Tuesday people gather before their flights take flight. Some come for the music, some come for the story told, but everyone leaves remembering that love can outlive growing old. Yeah, the piano at gate 12 still keeps her song alive.
On Cedar Street in Arkansas stood a little yellow house where Miss Ruth sat every evening when the sun was going down. She'd stitch this beside the front porch swing with a basket at her feet, adding patches to a quilt nobody had ever seen complete. Some came from a soldier's jacket, some from a baby dress, some from church choir robes worn on Sundays at their best. Every scrap had someone's story, some between the seams, like a map of all the lives that built that little community. For 30 years folks dropped off pieces of their past, a work shirt from the sawmill, a ribbon from a graduation cap. And nobody really knew what Ruth intended it to be, but she'd smile and say, "You'll understand eventually." Then one April night a fire swept through downtown fast, the feed store, bank and barber shop, and disappeared in ash. The town hall burned to the foundation, records lost in smoke, and with them went a century of stories people hoped they'd always hold. That's when she brought out the quilt on Cedar Street, spread it wide for everyone to see. Every patch of name, every thread of memory, every color telling where we've been. When the photographs were gone, when the old records disappeared, that quilt became the history we thought we'd lost that year. The mayor stood there speechless as she laid it on the floor. More than 2,000 pieces stitched from door to door. Children found their grandparents, old friends found younger days, entire generations hidden in the fabric she'd saved. There was a square from the first schoolhouse built in 1932, a piece from a wedding tablecloth everybody knew. And when folks saw their stories there, something changed inside. They realized the town ain't buildings, it's the people tied together through time. That's what lived inside the quilt on Cedar Street. Every laugh and every defeat, every harvest, every storm, every dream, woven into something bigger than a single memory. When the photographs were gone, when the old records disappeared, that quilt became the history
Sister Ruth passed away that winter at 94 years old. But before she left, she wrote a note, folded careful in the quilt's old folds. It said, the strongest threads are people, the cloth is only cloth. Take care of one another, and you'll never truly be lost. Now the quilt hangs in a museum built where the old town hall once stood, and school kids stop and stare a while, like every generation should. They see more than scraps of fabric, more than colors stitched with care. They see the heart of a small town story still hanging there. Yeah, the quilt on Cedar Street still holds us all together. Station clock stopped working years ago, just hangs there crooked in the Tennessee cold. But every Friday night at 9:30, that old freight train still rolls by. I sit on the bench where we carved our names, back when forever sounded easy to say. The paint's all peeling from the depot walls, but some memories never fade at all. You left this town in the summer of '99, chasing California dreams and city lights. I stayed behind with a mechanic's wage, fixing engines while the years turned pages. Folks said I'd forget you after all this time, but they never saw those blue-green eyes, or heard the promises we whispered low as that midnight whistle echoed through the hills. Like the last train through Pine Hollow, you come and go inside my mind, rolling through the dark of memory, leaving old sparks behind. Every whistle sounds like your goodbye, every rail still carries your name, and no matter how many years roll by, my heart still waits beside that train. Last October, I got a handwritten note, no return address, just a familiar stroke. It said I'll be passing through next Friday night. If you're there, maybe we'll make things right. I read those words 100 times or more, standing in my garage by the open door, wondering if fate still worked that way, if some dreams arrive too late. Like the last train through Pine Hollow, you come and go inside my mind, rolling through the dark of memory, leaving old sparks behind. Every whistle sounds like your goodbye, every rail still carries your name, and no matter how many years roll by, my heart still waits beside that train. The headlights cut through the mountain mist, the whistle cried across the ridge. Then I saw you step down from that rail car door, just like the girl I'd loved before. A little older, a little worn, but smiling like she'd finally come home. Like the last train through Pine Hollow, you came back through the night, rolling out of all those lost years, and somehow made them right. Now the whistle sounds like hope again, not a ghost I can't outrun. And every Friday when that train rolls through, it reminds me love ain't done. Yeah, some hearts keep holding on till the last train finally brings you home.
There's a wooden bench at mile 42 along an old Wyoming trail with a mountain view. It ain't on any map you'll find in a tourist stand, just a place beside the pines where the wildflowers still dance. I first saw it one September after 14 hours on the road, hauling cattle through the bighorns with a heavy load. The sun was dropping low, painting gold across the sky, and carved into the back were words that caught my eye. If you're tired, sit a while. A year went by before I passed that way again. This time after losing my brother, my closest friend. The world felt colder than the snow, building on the peaks, and grief had stolen every answer I was trying to seek. So I pulled over by that bench as evening settled in, found a notebook and a weatherproof box tucked underneath it then, filled with notes from strangers passing through the years, written in faded ink, stained by rain and tears. At the bench at mile 42, people leave pieces of the truth, a prayer, a memory, a goodbye, a reason to keep moving through the night. Some roads are lonely, that's for sure. Some wounds take longer to endure, but hope keeps showing up somehow.
bench at mile 42. One note came from a trucker who beat cancer in the spring. Another from a young girl learning what forgiveness means. A widow wrote about her husband and the stars he loved to see. And every page somehow felt like it was speaking straight to me. I sat there till the moon rose high above the mountain line, reading stories from strangers who had survived their hardest times. And then I took my pen and wrote my brother's name inside. For the first time since he left, I didn't feel alone that night. At the bench at mile 42, people leave pieces of the truth, a prayer, a memory, a goodbye, a reason to keep moving through the night. Some roads are lonely, that's for sure. Some wounds take longer to endure, but hope keeps showing up somehow. At the bench at mile 42, nobody knows who built it there or who first placed that notebook down. But sometimes the best things in this world appear without a sound. Not every hero wears a badge, not every gift has a name. Sometimes healing starts with strangers who've walked through the same pain. Now every fall I stop again and add another page with a pen, watching the sunset fade beyond the blue. And when life gets heavy, when the answers disappear, I remember all those voices that I found out there, and how a simple wooden bench helped carry people through. Yeah, hope still waits beside the pines at the bench at mile 42.
There's a pair of work boots hanging from the old water tower just outside a town called Red Oak, Oklahoma. Faded leather, cracked and worn, swinging in the prairie wind since before I was born. As a kid, I'd ask my daddy every time we'd drive by, why's nobody taking those boots down from the sky? He'd just grin and say, one day you'll understand. Then he'd shift that old truck into gear and head across the land. Years later at 17, I learned the story true about a man named Caleb Ross that only old-timers knew. He worked every ranch for 50 miles around, fixing fences after storms when they came crashing down. One summer brought a wild pound up Miller Creek and headed straight for town. Caleb stayed behind to help while everybody else got out. And those shoes by the water tower still dance with the Oklahoma wind, like a reminder of a man who gave more than he had to give. Some folks leave behind a fortune, some leave a famous name, but some leave a town still standing, and that ain't a small thing. For 20 hours straight he worked with volunteers, digging lines and moving cattle through smoking fear. The fight finally turned away just north of County Road 9, and every family made it out with a little luck and time. The next morning when the danger passed and the sky turned blue, the town gathered at the diner trying to figure out what to do. The mayor climbed a ladder with Caleb standing near and tied those old work boots high above the water tower's fear. Now those shoes by the water tower still dance with the Oklahoma wind, like a reminder of a man who gave more than he had to give. Some folks leave behind a fortune, some leave a famous name, but some leave a town still standing, and that ain't a small thing. Caleb never liked attention, never made a speech or boast, said I only did what anybody would have done. But everyone knew better, 'cause when fear was running wild, he chose to stay and fight, while others ran for miles. So the shoes by the water tower still catch the evening sun, watching over fields of wheat and children out having fun. And every new generation asks why they're hanging there. Then somebody tells the story, and Caleb's still with us somewhere. Yeah, those shoes by the water tower still dance in the prairie air.
Grandpa's toolbox sat untouched for nearly 5 long years in the corner of the garage, collecting dust and memories. Rusty wrenches, bent up nails, receipts from 72, and 100 little pieces of a life nobody knew. One Saturday in early spring, I finally opened it, just looking for a socket set to fix a fancy bed. But underneath the bottom tray, folded tight and worn, was a hand-drawn map on yellow paper, weathered, stained, and torn. Across the top it simply said, for whoever finds this first, enlisted roads through Missouri in a dozen little towns, with circles drawn around old places I had never heard a name, and one short note beside the edge that only said, take the trip someday. So I loaded up my pickup and headed down the line.
county road at a time. The first stop was an old diner where a waitress smiled and said, "Your granddad used to stop right here every Thursday before dawn." And that map in Grandpa's toolbox wasn't leading me to gold. It was leading me through stories that had never been told. Every turn revealed a chapter, every mile revealed a man, and I realized how little we know about the lives behind our family names. One pin led to a schoolhouse where he fixed the furnace free. Another to a farmhouse where he helped a widow keep her wheat. There was a church in Kansas where he built a handicap ramp, and a riverbank in Iowa where he rescued a boy from the current's grasp. No newspaper had ever written a single word about those days. No medals hung upon his wall, no headlines praised his name. But town after town I met folks whose lives he'd quietly changed, and each story painted someone bigger than I ever known. Yeah, that map in Grandpa's toolbox wasn't leading me to gold. It was leading me through kindness he never stopped to show. Every stop revealed a lesson, every road revealed the truth. The strongest people often leave their greatest work unseen. The final mark was on a hillside overlooking fields of corn, where Grandpa used to watch the sunset when he felt tired and worn. There I found a small tin box buried underneath the stone. Inside was one last letter written in his careful hand. It said, "If you're reading this, remember, life ain't measured by what you own. It's measured by the people smiling because you helped them carry on. And if you ever feel forgotten or wonder what your life is worth, leave this world a little better than the day you found it first." Now that map hangs in my hallway where I see it every day, and whenever I get lost, it still shows me the way.
I was cleaning out the boathouse down by Beaver Lake, just outside of Rogers, Arkansas, when I found an old green tackle box covered in dust and spider webs. It belonged to my Grandpa Eddie, best fisherman this town had known. Been gone near 15 summers now, but somehow that place still felt like home. Inside were lures and faded bobbers, a pocket knife worn smooth with age, and underneath a bundle of line I found an envelope tucked away.
There was a photograph of Grandma June standing by the water in '58, and a little gold ring wrapped in paper with words scribbled on the page. It said, if you find this ring someday, don't wait too long to say what your heart's afraid to say. Life moves faster than a river runs, and tomorrow ain't promised to anyone. I almost lost your grandma once, too stubborn to tell her how I felt. Son, love's the only thing worth risking for. That note hit me like a bell. That night I drove across the county to a little house on Maple Street, where a girl I'd loved since high school days had nearly become a memory. We sat beneath her front porch light while crickets sang through the dark. And for the first time in my whole life, I spoke straight from the heart. It said, if you find this ring someday, don't wait too long to say what your heart's afraid to say. Life moves faster than a river runs, and tomorrow ain't promised to anyone. I almost lost your grandma once, too stubborn to tell her how I felt. Son, love's the only thing worth risking for. That note hit me like a bell. 3 months later, down by the shoreline, where the water caught the evening glow, I slipped that old gold ring onto her hand and watched happy tears start to flow. Some treasures never come from the water, they're the ones hidden deep in your soul. Yeah, I found that ring someday, and I finally found the words I was afraid to say. Life still moves like a river runs, but now I ain't facing it alone. Grandpa's gone, but his lesson remains, carried through generations like a song. And every time I look at her smile, I thank him for holding on to that ring so long. Yeah, love was waiting in a tackle box all along.
I came home early on a rainy Thursday, but still clinging to my old work boots. Your truck was there beside the porch, but another one was there too. The kitchen window glowed so warm, like every other night before. Funny how a man can lose his whole world standing at his own front door. He froze a moment that she saw me. He slipped out without a word. The silence hit a whole lot harder than anything I could have heard. Wedding pictures line the hallway, frames we'd picked out years ago. Every smile hanging on that wall belonged to people I don't know. So I left my ring there on the table, right beside the life we made. Some promises are built forever, some just slowly fade away. I didn't scream, I didn't curse, there wasn't anything to prove. Sometimes the strongest kind of goodbye is simply choosing to leave. I loaded up my old half-ton, didn't take much more than clothes. That front porch swing kept moving softly in the wind we used to know. Halfway down that gravel driveway, I look back one final time. Not because I wanted you, just to leave the hurt behind. So I left my ring there on the table, right beside the life we made. Some promises are built forever, some just slowly fade away. You can keep the house and memories, every picture on the wall. Love ain't worth begging for when it isn't love at all. Months roll by like passing boxcars, healing never comes overnight. But every sunrise found me stronger than the man who drove away that night. I learned a broken heart don't stay broken if you let tomorrow in. Yeah, I left my ring there on the table, but I found myself again. Some endings feel like losing everything, till they become where healing begins. Now when I look back through those years, there ain't no bitterness inside, 'cause the best revenge I ever found was building a better life. And somewhere that old gold band still lies, but it doesn't belong to me anymore.
Cabin 12 sat at the edge of the lake, up in northern Idaho pines. Just a wooden dock, a tin roof, and a view that could stop time. Every summer since I was a boy, Daddy'd take me there in June. We'd fish till dark and tell old stories beneath the mountain moon. Then life got busy like it always does. Jobs, bills, and growing old. Years slip by without noticing, like leaves before the cold. Daddy called every now and then, "Son, we ought to head up there." I'd always say, maybe next summer, thinking there'd always be one to spare. But the light in cabin 12 still burns inside my mind, like a beacon from the years I lost, calling me back through time. You think forever's waiting on you, till one day it slips away, and all that's left is a porch light shining on the memories that remain. Last October we buried Daddy under a hill beside the church. And a week later I found his keys in the pocket of his work shirt. So I drove north through the mountains alone, past rivers running cold and clear. And when I reached that old cabin porch, I had to stop and wipe my tears, 'cause the light in cabin 12 still burns inside my mind, like a beacon from the years I lost, calling me back through time. You think forever's waiting on you, till one day it slips away, and all that's left is a porch light shining on the memories that remain. Inside I found his tackle box, his coffee mug beside the chair, and a note that simply read, "Glad you made it here." I don't know when he wrote those words, but somehow they found me right on time. Yeah, the light in cabin 12 ain't just glowing by the lake, it's every chance we get to love before it's gone someday. Now every June I bring my son, and we fish beneath those pines, while the evening settles on the water and the stars begin to shine. And when cabin 12 lights up at dusk, I swear Daddy's still there somehow, smiling from that old porch swing watching over us now.
Murphy's Cafe off Route 66. There's a chair by the window, table 6. Every morning at 7, the coffee gets poured, even though nobody walks through that door. Old Joe runs the place like he always has, wipes down the counter, checks the gas, and right beside the jukebox, glowing blue, sits a plate nobody ever moves. Back in 2005, a young Marine named Ben, he used to stop by every Friday with his friends. He'd order chicken fried steak and peach pie too, leave $1 in the jar before he flew. Then one spring he shipped overseas, promised his mama he'd be home by Christmas Eve. But fate had different plans that year, and the whole town learned the meaning of fear. So the empty chair at table 6 still waits where he used to sit, beside the window facing west, toward the sunset he loved best. And every soul who walks inside knows the reason why some heroes leave this world too soon, but they never really say goodbye. Years rolled by like freight trains in the night. Kids grew up and the town changed with time. The old gas station closed, the hardware store moved on, but that chair stayed right where it belonged. Then one July afternoon, a little boy asked why his grandpa always tipped his hat when he walked by. The old man smiled and pulled up a seat and told a story every child should keep, about the empty chair at table 6, still waiting where he used to sit, beside the window facing west, toward the sunset he loved best. And every soul who walks inside knows the reason why some heroes leave this world too soon, but they never really say goodbye. No statue stands in that small town square, no headlines carry his name anymore, but sometimes the strongest monuments are the ones behind ordinary doors. A cup of coffee, a faded photo, a place nobody dares replace, because memory lives a little longer when love is given space. And the empty chair at table 6 still waits where he used to sit, while the morning sun spills through the glass
months and another year quietly passes. New faces come, old faces go. That's how life unfolds. But every heart that learns his story carries a piece of him forward. Yeah, the empty chair at table 6 ain't empty after all.
There's a faded blue suit on the clothesline today, dancing in the Carolina breeze. Mama pinned it up at sunrise, right beside the bed sheets and the leaves. Most folks drive right past our farmhouse, never think twice what they see. But that old suit's got 40 years of family history. Daddy wore it when he married Mama, in a church out by Miller Creek. Wore it when he held my sister, just a baby, 3 weeks old and asleep. He wore it every Easter Sunday and every funeral in town. If somebody needed help or prayer, that blue suit showed up around. That Sunday suit on the clothesline ain't just cotton thread and seams. It's every promise that he kept and every sacrifice unseen. Yeah, time may fade the color and life may wear us thin, but the things that really matter are stitched beneath the skin. Last winter we laid Daddy to rest. The church bell echoed through the pines. The pews were full of neighbors. Some drove 4 hours just to arrive. Afterward, Mama couldn't bear to lock that suit away. So every spring she hangs it out and lets the sunlight touch those days. That Sunday suit on the clothesline ain't just cotton thread and seams. It's every promise that he kept and every sacrifice unseen. Yeah, time may fade the color and life may wear us thin, but the things that really matter are stitched beneath the skin. Now my little boy asks questions. Why's that jacket hanging there? And I tell him, son, that's what love looks like when a good man spends it everywhere. That Sunday suit on the clothesline
still sways beneath the southern sky, like a quiet kind of legacy that never really says goodbye. And every time the wind catches it, I can almost see him grin, 'cause the best parts of a father's life are stitched beneath our skin. Yeah, that old blue suit keeps teaching us, even now, after he's been gone.
Me and Jenny climbed that water tower on a July night in '95, with a pocket knife and 2 spray cans, thinking we'd stay 25. She painted her heart, I wrote our names high above that little town. Said even if the paint fades someday, they'll never take us down. Life had other plans waiting. She took a job in New Orleans. I stayed fixing tractors with my daddy, living somewhere in between. Letters turned to Christmas cards, then silence after one last call. Funny how forever sometimes slips away without a fight at all. But our names are still up on that water tower, faded by the rain and sun, like 2 kids who thought love would always outrun time. The whole town's changed around it. New stores where the fields once stood. But every time I look up there, I remember who I was. 30 years rolled by like freight trains, until the town fair came around. I heard somebody call my name, turned, and there she was in the crowd. Silver in her auburn hair, same green eyes I'd always known. She smiled and pointed toward the tower, said, guess they never painted over us. Yeah, our names are still up on that water tower, holding on above Main Street. Proof that some old promises refuse to leave. The years can steal your youth away, but not every memory. Some are written higher than regret, where the whole world can't reach.
night we climbed that ladder again, slower than we used to be. She reached out and touched those faded letters, then reached her hand for me. She whispered, "I never stopped wondering." I whispered, "Neither did I." Now our names are still up on that water tower, but tonight they mean something new. Not two reckless teenagers, but two hearts that made it through. We can't go back to 1995, and neither of us wants to try, 'cause love ain't about staying young forever. It's finding your way back before goodbye. Yeah, some stories aren't written in books, they're written where the whole town can look up.
Every Friday after work, I'd stop at Miller's grocery store. There was an old man at register 3 who'd been there 30 years or more. Same blue vest, same crooked smile, always called me young man still, even after my beard turned gray. He never lost that simple gift. He knew every kid by first name and every widow in the county. One December just before Christmas, a young mama stood in line. Milk, diapers, bread, and medicine. Her card got declined 3 times. She whispered, "Put the toys back." Her little boy just looked away before anybody said a word. That old cashier reached beneath the counter, pulled out an envelope, and quietly paid the whole bill. He said, "Christmas ain't something you buy, it's something you become." The whole store fell silent, except that little boy crying as he hugged his mama tight. Some people preach kindness, some people clock in and live it. The following Monday morning, Register 3 stood empty. A little handwritten sign read, "Frank retired yesterday. Thank you for 31 wonderful years." That's when we all realized nobody had ever asked who had been filling that envelope every December. 3 weeks later, the
new cashier found another envelope. Inside was $500 and one short note. If somebody needs this, don't ask their name. Signed, Frank. Now every Christmas there's still an envelope under register 3. Nobody knows who puts money in it anymore, because the people Frank helped started helping too. Funny how generosity works. It never really ends. It just changes hands.